Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today I'm going to ride solo. Just want to talk about migrating your PPC campaigns. I think what happens with a common theme that you see, and I've heard this over the last few years, is that people would say, let's just say they jump onto software because they want to have some parts of this automated, and they've got campaigns working really well, and then obviously they have to be formatted and structured and built for the new software. So let's call that a dead start. And what tends to happen, because you don't have the campaign history, you have a problem with gaining impressions in some cases, but without the campaign history, you don't know how the algorithm is going to react to the new campaigns. So often you hear, oh, well, basically what happened here is I used this software and it blew up the account, which effectively it didn't blow up the account. Because you may have not taken in consideration of certain areas of things. The thing is as well, we've discussed this many times, is that software is not a black box and it suddenly works its magic because you're paying a monthly fee plus a percentage of ad spend, or depending on what the subscription is. A lot of this is going to come down to you want to be able to migrate over and retain what's happening until it moves over, and so that your impression share is shifting from your current campaigns into the new structure. We get this with Databricks, which is kind of surprising as well, even though we've shared our philosophy. So when an aggregator comes in and buys, I think we've done about 9 and 18 months now, we've got 2 or 3 ready to pop. It's very surprising that although they've got deep pockets, is that we explain our philosophy on migrating over to retain performance, but they tend to work with let's pummel with top of search for the first few weeks and quickly build as much campaign history as possible, which is fair enough if you want to do that and you've got deep pockets. But that doesn't really kind of make sense to us, and we've been happy to show some of the larger aggregators when we do the handoff of accounts. We'll sit down and they go, we'll discuss the campaigns, or mainly Ellis and the team will, and then there'll be a cut-off process for this. And I'm saying this because soon I'm going to do slightly side subject is getting your PPC ready for when you exit, because you've got to limit down your costs, but you've got to retain your ranking and obviously your campaign performances. But sticking on this subject here is very important because there's 2 things that's happening here. There's no guarantee you're going to go back and repeat any previous success, because depending on how long your campaign history goes back and how Amazon's PPC algorithm reacts to the new campaigns, you may not get back to where you were. It may become better, but one of the safest ways to do it is to do the parallel work, which I'll discuss now in this. So effectively, when you're migrating campaigns, it can be a tricky area. But if you manage this well, you can get good results. So one of the things I'd like to start with is quickly discuss. Let's just break them. I'm going to give you arbitrary numbers, and I'm going to break them into sections. So we're going to call them high velocity products. So with, say, high velocity products, let's just say 50 to 100 units per day. Now that's going to take longer to build up that campaign history versus on the new campaigns, that is, versus mid-velocity products, say 25 to 49, and even less so when it comes to, say, 24 units and below. And then, of course, you've got the poor performing campaigns, which we'll get into. So to avoid the dead start is you're doing parallel exchange in terms of moving over. It's not split testing, as traditionally when you're split testing a website, as an example. It works on a different way because obviously you're dealing with Amazon. So the idea is you want to rotate these old versus new campaigns. And the idea is to migrate over to the new structure or the PPC system without loss or minimize the reduction in terms of poor performance. So if you've got a fantastic conversion history and you start from fresh, then you may never get back, like I mentioned earlier on, because you don't know how it's going to impact in terms of the PPC algorithm, implementing changes over time and adjustments that they make when you've got campaign history going back a year or 2 years, because they're obviously always working on something in the background. So if we break out these loose guidelines I gave the arbitrary numbers for before, so we'll go back to the high velocity products. So the full migration of that, getting the impression share over into them campaigns from your current ones into the new structure, this can take anywhere from 3 weeks to a few months. It really, really depends. So let's just say arbitrary numbers again. Mid-velocity products, 2 to 4 weeks. 24 units and below, 1 to 2 weeks. And then with the poor performing campaigns, you'll kill these and you'll start again. Because effectively, you've got nothing to lose. If you've got poor campaign history, it's best to switch them out. Now, one way you can manage this is by using portfolios to gradually wind down the old campaigns. Yeah. So this approach allows you, lets the old and the new campaigns run in parallel, but reduces the budget cap on the old campaigns every day in order to make a gentle shift to spend over to the new campaign. So what you can do here is you can put old campaigns into a portfolio, set a start date of today without an end date, and then you can set the start date or the start range budget cap to value slightly less than the campaigns would normally spend, right? And then every day you go in and reduce that budget cap slightly and set the budget start date to the current date again. Okay, I'll read that out again because if you're making notes, you put the old campaigns into a portfolio, then you set a start date today without an end date, and then you set the date range of budget cap to a value slightly less than the campaigns would normally spend. And then every day you go in to reduce the budget cap slightly and set the budget start date to the current date again. So let's just take it back using the daily rotation of the campaigns. Let's say day one is the 17th of January. Your old portfolio, you run the old portfolio on the first day. Then the new portfolio, you prep the new portfolio to run on the second day with no end date for safety. Okay. Then what you do, day two, old portfolio, prep and run on the third day, removing the end date for safety again. And then you've got the new portfolio and you set to third day. So ideally what will happen is you start to see in your data, you start to see a shift, like a wiggly line going up, where the campaigns are switching between the two. And then what will happen is that you start to see the impression share moving over to these new campaigns. Now, sometimes you might run these 2 days in a row and then run the new campaigns if it disturbed it too much. Sometimes you could do 3.5 days on the old campaigns when you're starting out and then half a day on the new campaign. I mean, the VA can go in and do that, but it's a constant level of testing, because the idea is the last thing that you want is when you're making these shifts over is to kill any history. Then you start to backpedaling, because you've got to remember that you're still running an ongoing concern before you shift over to the new software. So just from the top again, it's a short show. The focus is making sure that any new software that you use or any new campaigns you plan to start, you want to review the quality of the history of these campaigns. Are they high converting? They're going to be your most precious ones to focus on when you're dialing in and optimizing. Covering for Sharon today. My show didn't happen yesterday because the producer from Prosper had an emergency. So we'll bring Brian in next week. We've got a few tickets left for seller sessions. Now there's a few packages. There's not many. We've sold out the super early birds. Early birds are gone. There's some general mission. There's some branded by women tickets as well. I'll be back here next week. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love.